We cannot simply extend these options to children and their families without first knowing which providers are the most effective. We hope our school accountabilities, it only makes sense to hold our tutoring providers accountable in order to ensure that our children are able to get the best services possible. Finally, and most importantly, a word about school improvement. So far, experience with the implementation of No Child Left Behind has demonstrated that we have been much more successful at identifying struggling schools than we have been in actually turning them around. And in order to respond to this reality, the Commission recommends that we first ensure that chronically struggling schools are focused on ways to improve instruction as well as achievement. We have to ensure that these schools are able to implement reforms that improve instruction, rather than settling for the easiest reforms or the path of least resistance. Improved instruction is what leads to improved performance. Likewise, schools that reach the final state of No Child Left Behind school improvement timeline, the restructuring phase, should truly focus on significant reforms. These reforms should be implemented in a manner that is designed to cause major improvement. In order to ensure that districts have the adequate capacity to undertake these reforms, the Commission recommends allowing the districts to focus their restructuring efforts on the lowest performing 10% of their eligible schools. The Commission also recommends boosting the research and development capabilities of school improvement by doubling the research budget for elementary and secondary education at the United States Department of Education. We believe that increased funds should be aimed at research that assists these schools in meeting the goals of No Child Left Behind. We must arm our teachers and our principals with better tools and knowledge to increase student achievement, especially in struggling schools. These are just a few of the many key areas that the Commission believes require significant improvement in a reauthorized No Child Left Behind. We must assure that our accountability systems are accurate and fair. We must assure that our children are challenged in all subjects that are important to their future success. And we must make sure that high-quality options, such as public school choice and tutoring, are available and easily accessible for all eligible children. Finally, we must become just as effective at improving performance in struggling schools as we are in identifying them. Now it is really my honor and privilege once again to turn it over to my friend and colleague, Governor Barnes, for his additional comments about the Commission's recommendations. And I just would like to say, before he steps up here, that Governor Barnes is one of the most passionate individuals, leaders in education that I've ever had the privilege to work with, and it was really an honor and really a tremendous satisfaction for me to have the privilege to be his co-chair and to develop this wonderful report. Roy?
I'd also like to thank Secretary Thompson for his kind remarks. Both of us were kind of drafted into this task, and when we talked, neither of us, we both said that neither of us were going to serve unless the other one served, and so I'm glad that it all worked out because it's been a great experience. Now, in addition to our recommendations on accountability and turning around struggling schools, the Commission recognized that teacher and principal quality, along with high, rigorous, and challenging standards, are essential and critical to ensuring that we close the achievement gap and that our nation's students are ready for college and the workplace after they leave high school. Now, as all of us know, teacher quality is the most important factor in improving student achievement, especially for disadvantaged children. The difference that an effective and high-quality teacher can make for all children is well documented in study after study over the last few years. Unfortunately, the Commission heard rather loudly from teachers, school district officials, and state leaders that No Child Left Behind's highly qualified teacher requirements simply were not leveraging real quality in our classrooms. Instead, these requirements have become a paper chase that is more about compliance than about ensuring our teachers have the skills to improve student achievement. In response to this, the Commission recommends a sea change in No Child Left Behind's way of determining teacher quality. Instead of simply looking at qualifications, and that is important, that is to having the competency or having the subject matter learning, but instead of just simply looking at the requirements of those subjects for entry into the profession and for certification and licensure, we believe that teachers should have the opportunity to demonstrate their effectiveness in the classroom. We recommend that teachers be judged on whether they are highly qualified, surely, that is a knowledge of the subject area, but also whether they are effective, rather than simply rigidly qualified, which in practice might be better termed adequately qualified. Now, our recommendations would compare a teacher's effectiveness in producing learning gains to the learning gains produced by their fellow teachers, while also including an evaluation component by their principal or their peers. Now let me make this very clear. We are not saying, and I would be opposed to it, and I think everyone here on the Commission would be opposed to it, that you simply measure the effectiveness of a teacher, that is, how their students have performed on some assessment in determining whether they're effective. But we also say the other extreme by saying exclude any consideration of effectiveness is just as bad. And what we say is that in this growth model that Secretary Thompson talked about, we have to have a student information system. One of the details that you will see in the report is that a student information system is necessary in order to benchmark and measure growth. And states want to go to, and educators want to go to a growth model, and I agree. But when you do that, when you go to a growth model, you also, as a byproduct, have a tool that needs to be utilized, and that is how students, children, are learning, how they're progressing by different teachers. And though it should not be used as the sole basis for determining effectiveness, it is one of the measuring sticks that should be used. Not to punish a teacher, but to see if we can give them additional professional development, that we can have best standards of those children that are learning the most in order to improve the effectiveness of the teacher. Now, in this whole process that we've been through, here's basically the standard we used. We looked at what is best for a child, what is best for the student, and we excluded what was best for the adults in the system. It's kind of revolutionary, but it should be basic. And this is one of those areas that is going to attract attention. We've already heard it, but I suggest before there are quick, knee-jerk reactions, listen and read. Should the effectiveness of a teacher that is now available, the information is available in the growth model, should it not be used to improve the effectiveness of all teachers? We think that when we apply the standard of what is best for the child, the answer is obvious. Now, we also recommend that professional development for teachers under No Child Left Behind be reinforced to entitle teachers who are struggling to produce learning